compressor, they vibrate and they produce sound in and out of phase to control the dynamic range. So because of the active mechanism, it's called the cochlear amplifier. This is a feedback loop over here. Notice that without the cochlear amplifier, we have this response, the black dots over here. With the cochlear amplifier, you have 40 decibel boost in sensitivity and the frequency is sharper. That's why as you get old, the inner hair cells usually don't go. They're pretty robust. The microphones are there. You just don't have the feedback. As a result, you need a hearing aid to give it this boost so you can hear speech. And you lose the frequency tuning. But ironically, you can have better transient response because you got rid of the feedback. So you may be able to detect. So I've noticed that when I have a medium level system, nothing ultra high end and stuff like that. But when I played for young students and so forth, they're amazed. Oh my God, that sounds exactly like a live piano. But when I played for an experienced elderly audiophile, the system is crap. It sounds nothing like a piano. So the lesson I learned is never play a system for another audiophile. They're going to insult your system and make you feel depressed about your own system. they have good transient response. That's the thing. They may not be able to hear speech. That's a different matter. And this thing I showed you earlier, it depends on the gender and orientation, what happens here. During pregnancy, there is a class of hormones, androgen, testosterone is an androgen. The higher the level of this, that damages the cochlear amplifier. So generally, the more masculine a person, the worse the hearing and vice versa. So it tracks very well with this business here. Okay, so to review quickly, so you have 5 levels of active controls. One is those bones in the middle ear in a hundredth of a second, 10 milliseconds. And then you have things going on in the cochlear amplifier, 3 more stages over here. I won't go into the detail, but you can read this in the paper. But this is the point. That's why you should not interpret the ear as a simple spectrum analyzer. It's not enough to produce a frequency. The timing is much more important, which frequency is coming before. So many speaker companies already know this. They have adjustable drivers. They can move back and forth. Through TSP, they may adjust the time and stuff like that. Time is very important. So this also, understanding this 10 to the 40, the crazy amount of resolution that you have, this explains why hearing tests fail. The blind listening tests fail. So what happens is, very commonly, they do A/B testing. They'll play on one system, one cable, one speaker, whatever it is, for like a minute or so, and quickly switch to the other one. The rationale is if you don't switch quickly, you may forget the first one. You want to forget the first one. Otherwise, you're using your short-term memory. Short-term memory is a joke. Average person may remember 4 things. I think I can remember only 2. Like if I have to go up to my room, let's say I need to get a laser pointer, this, that, and so on. Average person can remember 4 things. You have 10 to 40 variations there. What are you doing with short-term memory? Useless. Use your long-term memory. So you want to listen to music for a long period of time. In fact, Steve was saying he listened to the turntable for 1 month and then the other one for 1 month, and he compared his emotional experience. That's the point. You can't form an impression of such complex information in such a short time. So the long-term memory is almost infinite. You have 100 billion neurons with 500 trillion connections. So that's what you want to do. Listen to it for a long time, have a break, then listen again. So earlier I did some experiment with interconnect pathway, switching between balanced interconnect and single-ended interconnect and stuff like that. So I thought the difference was like black and white obvious. So I did it on myself. Oh my God, I failed the test. I got it right like half the time, which you can get by just tossing a coin. So I was actually worried. So maybe all these naysayers, they're right. There is no difference. I've been building like a castle in a year and then I spend all this money and whatever. So then I realized something wrong. So then I brought in musicians. I forgot like 10 or 13 musicians. I said, you tell me how I should be doing the blind test. So there's one woman, she played the cello in the symphony. So I did my usual thing, like a few minutes and quickly going to a few minutes over here. She said my memories are overlapping. She knew nothing about neuroscience nor of audio. She's a musician. I said, what do you mean? He said, you need like a palate cleansing step in between, like with wine tasting. You have to have a break. I said, oh. She said the segment is so short. I sit and listen to an entire work of music, not 3 minutes. So then I increased it. Then I said, let me try it differently. So then I listened to the whole track. I did it on myself. I listened to the whole track, 12 minutes. It's a Delius work with violin and piano. And then I would listen to the other one the next day. My wife would go into the room, she would pick one or the other randomly, I would leave the room, then I would go in double blind and all of that. So the next day I didn't need to listen to the other one. I remember from yesterday whether it's the same one or not. And I got like 11 out of 12 correct. But that's a very inefficient test. You can spend like 2 days if you're having subjects coming in and stuff like that. So we shortened it to, I forgot, I think it's like 6 minute, 1 minute break and 6 minute. And then we were able to show that they could hear the difference between the balanced and simulated interconnect. And so this paper, it was published in the journal of the Audio Engineering Society, the first one over here. And knowing that this is such a sensitive and controversial subject, they took 11 months to review this paper. They sent it to 4 different reviewers. And even then after it was published, they held an open Zoom round table. So anybody, anywhere can come and ask any question they want, like speak now or forever hold your, hold whatever you have to say and so forth. And then after all that was settled, there are various channels on YouTube. They are very overjoyed. Finally there's a measurable difference in these interconnects and stuff like that. They were very happy. On the other hand, there's some YouTube channels which are skeptical about high-end audio. They are very upset. They built their whole career on disproving high-end audio. So they were very mad, actually. So look at this article over here. Hard to believe. He said, this fellow, he spent 42 minutes attacking me because he was so upset that this was done. So now we're trying, so that was comparing a balance with the single ended. Now we're trying to go beyond that, develop more sensitive tests and better measurement and stuff. And then coming to the measurements, what was found is for these interconnects here, if you look at the resistance, inductance, capacitance for these interconnects, they were basically the same. I mean, all were perfect. And still look at the frequency response. Flat as a pancake, from like a couple of hertz to 100,000 hertz and stuff like that. So true, people say that, Steve was saying the measurements don't correlate with perceived sound quality. Not these measurements, but they can be better measurements. So I looked at the time domain, and what I found is there you can see various other additional effects like reflection sequences, noise of course, and non-ideal capacitive decay. So what you find is you have an audiophile wire here, the red one. The blue one is a generic interconnect. It came free with a $40 DVD player. So probably you can buy it for $5 if you have to buy it. But if you look at the frequency response and the transient time, the cheap interconnect is better. Look, the blue one is actually faster, but then it crosses over. This is the thing. So if you just measure the frequency response and the usual transient response, you come up with exactly the opposite conclusion. But if you look at the low level, when these things are decayed to like millivolts over here, the audiophile cable, it cuts off cleanly and it's done. This generic cable, you have lingering contamination and it's going on forever and ever. What this will do is, the actual decay of the instrument of the piano, that's going to get overwritten by this. So it's going to cut off sooner. The sound will be dry and it's going to lack musicality basically. And so that's noticed by audiophile. So, one of the, there's no time to go through all of this. I want to just give a glimpse of the very interesting neurology that takes place in human hearing. I'm going to explain how, remember in the beginning I showed you the spectrograms of the violin, the piano. The frequency started at a different time. Where is this measurement taking place and what's the accuracy? Do you need a millisecond, microsecond or what? So what happens is, that's an element of pattern recognition. When you're distinguishing a harpsichord from a piano, that's pattern recognition. Pattern recognition has many elements. One of them is temporal, time dependent. And then within the temporal, one of them is the transient. When you have a piano, it's a burst of frequency. So that's like the attack, that's the transient. So that, believe it or not, there's like a substation in the brain. All it does is measure that transient. That's the V and LLV. So coming from a physics background, it was fun for me to learn all these biological terms. LL is the lateral lemniscus, V and LL is the ventral nucleus of the lateral lemniscus. V and LL, small v, is the ventral subdivision of the ventral nucleus of the lateral lemniscus. It was kind of interesting for me to learn this stuff. That's where the thing takes place. So how does that work? So in the earlier stage, you have octopus neurons. These things are synchronous AND gate. So you have 60 input. It's looking at 60 different frequencies, the timing of, to see